How's everybody doing today? I am good for a cold, wet Tuesday. Boy, we've had a lot of rain, haven't we? Putting my email up there as usual. And today, we'll wait a minute to see if anybody joins us. Say hello to Harold. Good morning, Mr. Foss Knight. Good day, sir. What movie is that from? Good day, sir. I think it's Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Don't know about you, but I should have a sweater on. But I wanted to show off my new shirt. It is a periodic table. And I know it says periodically I'm sarcastic. And if you look at that really close, it says sarcasm. Hooray. Morning, Brandon. So, today we are talking about magnetism. And I got my other computer up and running, or at least I tried. It's apparently frozen at the moment. It must be cold like the rest of us. Hey, Bree. Morning. So, if you guys are having any, I'm assuming that some of you guys probably haven't even started. I won't name names. But our little project, we're trying to create flight. By the way, I wonder if you can create flight with this. It's kind of like a parachute, isn't it? Maybe put a little army man in here. Yep, it's kind of like one of the army little rectangular. If it's the right combination, it would actually work. All right. Anyways, I digress. I wonder if any of you guys are having any issues with your projects where you're trying to create flight with a paper airplane or some sort of a parachute. Remember, what I wanted you to do with that project is just send me a picture or a short video and a brief explanation of what you did. You know what? And maybe even what you learned. And you don't need to make it hard. I want you guys to have fun with that, because when we do it at school, we usually have a lot of fun with it. There's not really a big written portion to that. I'm observing the bird, and that bird's still in the nest there. It's just a little bit of it's mostly doing your experiment, trying to create something, and a few sentences about whether you were successful or not and what you learned. Doesn't need, just really, really simple. This will be our last week of live streaming. And so you do not have to look at this face anymore. However, that doesn't mean that we won't see each other over the summer. I, for one, am going to be streaming on, not necessarily live streaming, but posting videos on my YouTube channel, which is my name, Thomas Suriani. If you see, there's several of channels with the same name. So if you see one with a lot of animals, chickens, ducks, birds, squirrels, minks, that sort of thing, that's this guy. Deer, trying to remember what I got on there. But anyways, I'll keep you posted with my garden and stuff. Any animal highlights that we get, keep you posted with that. So, good morning. And so, if you remember, all the stuff that we're talking about is all about forces. Last week we talked about how a force is a push or a pull, and when we're talking about, morning Malachi, I thought it was you. Thank you for joining us. I just mentioned that this week, today and Thursday, will be our last live stream. Report cards are due on the 29th, so any work that you want to get to us, it needs to get to us. Whether it's a packet you want to turn in to the school or something you need to submit in Google Classroom or email me pictures, videos of your experiments. I'm going to have to try to share some of my stuff with Mr. Fosnight because I've got the benefit of enjoying watching some experiments being done, and I know he would enjoy them as much as I do. So it's been pretty cool watching some of your experiments that you're doing at home. And some of you guys are just talking out loud and kind of figuring things out on your own, and that's really cool to see. Makes me proud of you guys that you have a learning attitude, and you want to learn, and you're growing, and that's really cool. So we've been going back to what I was saying. We've been talking about forces, how a force is a push or a pull. And anytime that I want to move something, I push it or I pull it towards me. I can push something very light with one finger, or I may need something very heavy like a car. I may need to use a motor to actually push it. So you guys understand that concept. We talk about tug of war, playing tug of war, and how that's a pull versus a pull, and a balanced. When we have a balanced force, that tug of war, that rope's not going to go anywhere. When one side is stronger than the other, we have an unbalanced force, and it'll pull in the direction of, whoever's the stronger. Whatever team's stronger or has better footing, not necessarily stronger. Sometimes it's about footing. Anyways, but there is a balance. So we started talking about at a distance forces, and those are forces that exist that do not require this contact. Okay, and so our at a distance force, electricity is an at a distance force. And here's where I say, ooh, where's my stuff from last week? And so we talked about an electrical force a lot, electrical charges. Some of us have seen electricity in the form of lightning, or even an electrical shock rubbing on the carpet. One of the things that I used to do in my former life was work on lawnmowers, and sometimes we needed to check to see whether it got a spark. So we would pull that spark plug out with it still hooked up and just hold it close, not contact with, but close to the lawnmower itself. And when you pull the cord, you could actually see a spark jumping from the spark plug over to the lawnmower in a little bit of a gap. And so electricity can travel through air. Electricity is actually all around us in very small amounts. That's where that electrical energy comes from when when you shock somebody, when you're rubbing your feet on the carpet, or when you take like a balloon, which I probably can do. Where are my balloons? There they are. Sorry to get my face in your camera. Anyways, can I make static electricity? Sure, I can. And so electricity is a good example of an at a distance force. There does not need to be contact for electricity to travel. However, it travels farther, and typically when we're talking about electricity, it's traveling through some sort of a wire. It could be something like a cord that we charge our phones into. It could be something that's bringing electricity into our house from the street. All right. Now, the other thing we're going to talk about is magnetism. That's 2 lungs full. And we talked about what a magnetic force is. Let me review that. It's a force of attraction or repulsion. And yes, that can be funny. Because let's talk, I'm thinking about Brianna when I think about this, but I'm sure there's plenty of people that I shouldn't joke around, that you're repulsed by. We will name no names. No. I'm trying to create static electricity, and I don't know if I can. And if it works, I can actually feel it, but it's not enough to stick to me. But you guys have all done this with balloons, and you understand the idea of the fact that there's a little bit of electricity in the air all around us at all times. Magnets, on the other hand, is a force of attraction or repulsion. Magnets have poles, either south or we call them south or north pole. If you put 2 south poles together, they'll repulse. If you put 2 north poles together, they'll repulse. If you put a north and a south pole together, they will attract. Okay? That's where the expression opposites attract probably comes from. And so two norths are gonna repulse. 2 souths are gonna repulse. The north and the south are gonna attract each other. That's the basics of magnetism. But magnetics work without contact, right? I mean, once we have contact, we have a good magnet there. But they can work without contact. And I can take this, let's see if I can get it right here. I can take this and I can get it to pick it up without even contacting it, right? So there is a force around that magnet that you can't see. It's invisible, but you can observe it. And that's probably about 1 inch, okay? Where it just has the power to just pull that up. Yeah, I chose Superman today. Batman works the same way. Let's try this one. Yeah, about 1 inch or so. Okay, so that's an invisible force that surrounds a magnet. Can't see it. You can observe it, and it's there. And so there's a huge relationship. In 7th grade, we talked about electricity. And now we're talking about forces, and we should have talked a little bit about magnetism. Now we're talking about forces, and we're gonna talk about electrical forces combining with magnetic forces, where we actually have forces that are invisible, yet are a very big part of our life. And so what I really want to relate to you guys is that magnets are used to produce electricity. And so basically, if you've ever seen a video, and I'll try to post one, of a scrapyard, and there's a big crane that comes along, and the guy flips a switch, and it picks up all the scrap. So it picks up all the scrap, it carries it along, and then he flips the switch again, and it drops it. And then he comes over and he gets more, and he picks it up, and he brings it over here, and he flips the switch, and he drops it off. What's happening is he has actually created what's called an electromagnet. Okay, so electromagnet is basically a man-made magnet where you take a piece of iron. So if you have something that's made out of iron, and pure iron would be preferred, but if you have something that's metal, that's iron, you take it and you wrap a copper wire around it, and you send electricity to it. When you send electricity to it, it becomes a magnet. I'll try to have an example for you guys on Thursday. It's pretty cool to see. And so we can create magnets like that. And so that's causing something to become magnetic. It's called electromagnet. And we can use that for a lot of things. But in generating electricity, it's very similar, where we're dealing with fields, and those fields create electricity. And so you have, the same thing, we're using wire and we're using magnets. And so you have magnets that are in very close proximity with, generally speaking, we use copper wire because it's a very good conductor of electricity. And so you have a motor or something that's causing those magnets to spin around that wire. It causes an electrical charge, positively charged electrons, and so all of a sudden you're generating electricity. Now, I got one out in my garage. It's powered by gas. You can go to a lot of places around the country. Hoover Dam, Tennessee Valley Authority. If you ever go to Niagara Falls, both the American and Canadian side have hydroelectric dams where you have water pushing a turbine. Same thing, you have magnets and a lot of coiled wire that are spinning in close proximity, and it's producing electricity. Very, very simple concept, just water turning the turbine. Or we've seen them around, wind turning the turbine, generating electricity. And so the other thing is, what's the last one? Coal-fired, natural gas-fired, oil-fired, nuclear power plant-fired generators that produce electricity. All of those do one thing. They heat up water, create steam. Steam turns turbine. Pretty simple. Okay. So looking at those things, it's really cool to understand that these forces that are at a distance force, like electricity and magnetism, play such a huge role in our lives every day. The electricity that we turn our light switch on, that we're using these computers with, that we get on our phones with. Hey, by the way, I got a new phone. Not a good experience. I smashed my other one by accident. And we can produce electricity, it's called electromagnetic induction. And I will be posting a hopefully relatively simple assignment. This will probably be your last assignment. which means your last week, if you're totally caught up, there's going to be little or nothing for you to do. Proud of you 8th graders, having made it to the finish line here, and sure hope I get to see you guys, if not soon, in the fall when you guys are upstairs and we can yell at each other in the hallway like we're not supposed to. Anyways, this will probably be your last assignment. It will be a small one, and if you guys have any questions about your anything I've said, questions about your projects, questions about anything, make sure you can see my email address is in the live chat. You guys can get a hold of me through Google Classroom, which is what most people do. But I've gotten emails from my regular emails too. If you contact me through Google Classroom and I'm not on, it sends a message to my email, so I can get it. And I'm doing my best to check it every hour or so, even at off-hour times when I'm not typically in front of the computer. We're getting pressed for time here, Brandon. So you guys take care. If you don't have any questions, let's rock out to a little Pirates of the Caribbean. And hopefully I'll have something I can show you on Thursday for a little example. Get outside if you can. Get some fresh air, some vitamin K. Sunlight's good for you, keeps you healthy. All right, guys, take care.